Did you work with an endurance athlete? You said that that endurance athlete did, they were featured in a Netflix documentary. I don't remember much. Did they bike across America, or what was the deal?
Oh yeah,
What was your involvement with that?
yeah. So a client athlete of mine, he has ridden RAAM, the Race Across America, twice. Um, and so the first time he did that, whew, wow, that was quite an experience. Um, so the we could talk about basically anything when it comes to that. Quite an intense experience for me, and I wasn't riding a bike. The whole training was pretty intense, but then the actual like experience itself, like he rode for 20-ish hours a day, slept for between 3 and 4 hours a day.
And you were just right with him the whole time, or?
So I flew in and met them halfway there. So that there was a crew with them for the first half, and then a couple of those members had to go. And when they left, I popped in and kind of coached them the last half of the way. Yeah, and so I think it was like a 12-day. You have to complete it in like 12 days or less.
Yeah.
So you're on a timer, and he would just go into his pain cave. He called it that.
Yeah.
And he would just ride.
And then what was your job like?
So a couple of different things. So we had to figure out each day before everything, right? We were just training, right?
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that we can actually like do long rides, and then make sure he can ride at nighttime, make sure he can ride sleep deprived, make sure, we try to balance his body as well as we understood at the time, to kind of like make it so he could endure the grueling aspect of that. And then when we're actually in the race, my job was to kind of like coach him on basically like what speed he needed to really maintain in order to achieve the distance that we needed that day. I helped out with determining like what he needed food wise. So do we need more fat? Do we need more carbs? Do we need more protein? Like, so I'm in constant communication with him. Do we need more water? Do we need more electrolytes in the water? So we kind of managed all that. I think we used an Omega wave back then. So we would measure his HRV every morning. And, in theory, we were using that to determine how hard we push that day. But some days, like, when I'm tracking, here's the last day and here's where we are and here's the distance we need to make up. Even if his HRV was low, we kind of still had to go for it.
Yeah.
But we managed it differently, right? Maybe maybe his nutrition needed to be different. Maybe I needed to give him an extra nap here and there. So it was really about coaching him through. So all he had to do was the physical work, and then my job was just to make sure that he got there in time. And he did. So that was
You've done it more than once now.
Now he's done it twice.
What's the documentary called again?
I do not know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I'd have to look that up. But then
so
the documentary was based on the second time he did it. Yeah.
So you said that you tracked his HRV. Are there other metrics that you were able to track? I mean, it sounds like you recorded how he slept. Were you able to get any insight on the quality of his sleep or hydration?
So we didn't really have anything for hydration levels or anything like that. We checked his heart rate, right? And we were trying to basically keep his heart rate at that point 130 or below, because that lets us know that he can keep going. It's like an all-day type thing. But those were the main two kind of like numerical metrics that we would track, and then a lot of it was more subjective. How are you feeling? What's hurting? There was one time where, based upon his positioning, he had some wrist stuff going on. So like prior to him initiating his ride one day, we went to a chiropractor, had them do some work on him, drove him back to where he needed to start riding from, and then off he went.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, some injuries. What about his nutrition? What was he doing?
Yeah. So his nutrition was interesting because he's also vegetarian.
Hmm.
So so from a protein perspective and from certain other micronutrients, we couldn't just give him meat. Like we had to make sure that things were pretty balanced. Um, so we made like these protein bars that also had plenty of carbs in them as well, but I forget what was in them at this moment. But basically, you just bake a big sheet. There's some oats, probably some honey, and I'm blanking on what we used. Probably like pea protein or something like that for his protein, and then we would basically pack his riding pocket with a couple of those. So we'd have those, but then actually during the ride, we were riding with him. So there was like an RV that would ride ahead to where he needed to get to that day, and then most of the days I was in the van with him, where we basically drive up beside him. Out the door, we'd hand some food item, and then he'd grab it real quick, keep riding, and eat while he rode. Towards the end, we actually, we weren't able to get enough calories in him, so we actually resorted to making ice cream shakes for him.
Oh, wow.
Which it worked.
Yeah, eat something.
But it was suboptimal, at least then. But it helped get the calories in, fat, some protein, and I think also there's like potentially there's a nostalgic kind of like a little bit of comfort, like this is a treat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of gives you a little bit more energy to push through.
Yeah. Do you know Rich Roll?
The name, I've heard the name. Sounds very familiar.
Roll is he went to Stanford. He's now a vegan ultra athlete. He did Kona a number of times. He's got his whole story. His book was called Finding Ultra, and he worked a corporate job, and then he struggled with alcoholism, and then he turned his life clean, and then he started racing all these ultras kind of later in life. But it just reminded me of a story where he was like about to bonk doing some, who knows, 50-mile run in the middle of the night where nothing's open, and he had to just dive through a trash bin because he was like literally had nothing, and dive through a trash bin and got some McDonald's because it was like his last resort for food. Sometimes you get desperate, you could eat anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, you push your body enough, you'd be surprised what it can process.
Yeah.